The Dice Tower did not travel to New York with me. So today you are going to pick, not roll, your own numbers.
Okay.
Numbers 1 through 8. What is your first of 3 numbers?
6.
Question number 6. Oh, you got a softball to start here. TV guest star. If you could guest star on the TV show of your choice, what show would it be and who would you want to play?
Oh, that's a cool question. It would have to be something in the West Wing. Because it would have to be CJ. It would have to be CJ. Yeah, it would have to be Janny. Yeah, because that was such a show-defining performance. She was amazing in it, and that show got me through being an unemployed actor / drama student.
Ooh, I like that answer. That West Wing's always a good answer to that question. All right, so that was number 1. What is your second number out of 8?
Let's go 2.
Number 2 is a heavier acting question. It's favorite, least favorite. I want to know your single favorite part of the acting process. You know, rehearsing, putting a costume on for the first time, something like that. But then I also want to know not necessarily your least favorite, but a part of the process that you still see room to grow for yourself.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big question, isn't it? And the answer would shift depending on the day of the week. Best part is the process, is the finding, the characterization. Seeing as we're here today talking about the Wasp, that's a performance. Carla is an example of when I change the way I speak, I change the way I walk. Obviously, costume and makeup help you find that transformation. That was a steep climb on Penny Dreadful because I was playing like 4 roles at once. So that process of finding what is unique physically, externally, and then because internally you're finding it, but you have to find it externally as well. That's the fun part. The thing that I like the least is the early mornings. Still, after 20 years, I still can't stand the alarm going off at 4 a.m. because I'm a sleeper.
100% understand that. All right, you have your final number of 3. What is your last number?
Let's go 3.
All right, number 3 this is a silly question. I wanted one Wasp theme question, so here it is. You are home alone. There is a wasp in your home. What do you do? How do you handle it?
A glass and a piece of paper. That's my go.
No.
Yeah, that's my go. Well, I would try that and I would probably fail, wouldn't I? Running around. That's my spider go-to, is a glass and a piece of paper. So I'm assuming I would try that with the Wasp, but the Wasp might be too savvy for that and too fast and quick for me. So God help me, I might resort to a tea towel and whack it. But I would try not to kill it first.
That's so kind of you. I swear before this question became the Wasp for your movie, it actually was Spider, because I think what you do with a bug in your home, I think says a lot about a person. And I am the cup and paper kind of person, but I am terrified of stinging insects, and wasps they're just evil.
Yeah, I'm like you. A wasp might actually tip me over the edge just for the tea towel. Yeah.
I feel like I would have to burn my house down and move out. that would just be it. That'd be the end of the house.
No, a wasp's nest is the end of the world, which Naomie's character deals with. Like, absolutely. That is horrific.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Ladies Night. This time, I am so thrilled to welcome Natalie Dormer to the show today to celebrate the Wasp. Congratulations.
Thank
you two, you and Naomie are something else in this movie.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it, yeah.
What is the movie you watched, performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor?
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it would have been early performances of like Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis, Vivian Leigh. I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house when I was younger, so it would be the Sunday black and white film that would be on before we had platforms, before we had streaming. You know, here in the UK, there would normally be a Sunday afternoon film, and it would be an oldie. So That I imagine it starts around. I imagine it starts around there from a young age. You know, like. But I mean, I trained as a stage actor, so I never really intended. I never really intended to be a camera actor. I wanted to be on stage, and then lucky me, I get to do both. So
I'm kind of ruining my roadmap, but just to follow up on that, do you remember this single moment when you realized that your path wasn't necessarily taking you away from theater, but it was having you beeline towards screen? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it was just the wealth of opportunity that was offered to me after the Tudors in playing Anne Boleyn on what was back then a huge show. Um, and then opportunity offering itself to me, and then I was like, oh, I should follow this road because there is, you know, a door has been opened. So but that was kind of definitely, you know, in 3 years of classical training, as us Brits say, of stage acting, I mean, I think I had one weekend of camera workshop. We're not taught anything, you know, or we weren't for that classical stage acting. So Casanova and the Tudors really was sort of my apprenticeship of learning about crew, what everyone does, the mechanics of a set. And that was kind of like my training, to be honest with you.
Here's a question that I love asking. When you first started screen acting, what is a silly question about what it takes to make a show or a movie that you were too afraid to ask then, but you wish you had the courage to ask sooner?
I should have. Uh, I should have gone into an editing suite earlier. I can remember Lasse Hallström saying to me, "Do you want to come and watch the dailies? Come and watch. You know, do you want to come and watch the dailies?" And I was like, why are you offering me that? I don't understand. And then as soon as you go, and people will know I was with a director for many years as well as a partner. And when you see an editing suite and you see what gets done to your performance, or what's useful, what's not useful, what matters in messing up, what doesn't matter in messing up, and you understand the cutting process, I think it really informs and liberates you as a camera actor to understand that, like, you owe those editors. Man, do you owe those editors. And it's good to get in the editing suite and shake hands and say hi if they are nearby. And I like to say hi to them, you know. Occasionally, I like to look down the lens occasionally when someone's fiddling with a light and wave to the editor, because they spend so much time looking at your face. God love them. You have to
I've seen
apologize for
reels
that
like that.
sometimes.
Yeah. There's been some great reels of actors giving their editors shout outs. And I love when they post those kinds of behind the scenes
Yeah.
featurettes, because no movie gets made without every single person in production and post production that has to get their job done and get it done well. I wanted to go back a little bit because I always love asking about studying an art like acting in a formal school setting. So you studied at Weber Douglas. What is something you learned while studying there that you still find yourself using to this day? But then also, what is something that all the schooling in the world never would have prepared you for when you hit your first professional stage or set?
Yeah. Okay. Very good question. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that Weber I mean, Weber doesn't exist anymore, but, and, you know, which is really sad, but I've had feedback over the years from people that have hired graduates of Weber. And I think the great thing about our training there was we were taught that there is no one way, there is no one path. So depending on whether what your director's temperament is, or practitioner element is, or theatre as well, obviously, because it was fundamentally a theatre training. But you know, whether you believe in inside out, outside in, you know, whether you're Meisner, Stanislavski, whatever the hell you are, know that every single job and every set of circumstances and everybody's process is going to be different, and to be flexible to that. I mean, yes, you have your inner truth and your own inner process, but that you have to be accessible and open-minded to a different creative way of working every time. And I like Weber engendered that in us, definitely. And it's been very, I've worn that, and I've had it commented on that. It's noticeable that you are open to that. But the thing you can't be prepped for is the politics. That's the thing you have to learn on the spot. And you learn about hierarchy, and you learn about personality types, and you learn about the dynamics of a set, and who's in charge and who's fighting, and that everyone can only have so many battles per day, or wins and compromises, that it is an organic beast with a socio-political aspect to it. So it can't just be about the art, or you're naive if you think it's just about the art. It has that element to it as well. It is an industry.
Oh boy, I have so many follow-up questions.
which I won't answer because I don't want to upset anyone.
This one puts a positive spin on what you just said, actually. Of all of your earliest screen credits, which one would you say taught you the most about what you value in an on-set environment?
Oh, wow. I mean, just candor and kindness. Truly, it's like I said, my apprenticeship was the Tudors, and I was very lucky to be working with an incredibly high grade Irish crew that were used to shooting, blockbuster movies, because it was that era when everything shot in, still so much shoots in Ireland, and the Irish are very candid and straight talking, and I didn't feel stupid asking a grip or a spark, like, what does that do? What's that for? Why is that? Culturally, they're very open, candid, straight talking people. So I think I really benefited that from those 2 years.
I love that answer. All right. The other follow-up I had, because you mentioned that the school you studied at didn't lean into any specific technique.
We did all the different techniques, but there wasn't a gold standard, It's like, this term it's Meisner, or this term it's Stanislavski, or exactly.
Is there any particular technique you've leaned into most heavily all these years, but also can you name a technique that you've only tried just recently?
I don't know about quoting specific practitioners, but what I do know is that as my career has gone on, I benefit more from I have benefited more from an outside in process instead of an inside out. You can be feeling everything in the world, so much truth and so much emotion, but if the camera can't see it, it's effectively not there. So that doesn't mean I don't want to missell. It's not that I'm aesthetically posing, but I'm just aware that what the camera sees and what you feel are two very different things. And I think you learn to hone that the longer you're in the industry. You learn to forget, basically. It's like, what's the lens size? Oh, good. Now I know, how now I know what size you're on. That informs what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to forget about the lens size. It's about information, and then disregarding the information and pivoting in that moment so that you're still honest.
Makes all the sense in the world. All right, let's get into some specific titles now. You mentioned Casanova, you mentioned the Tudors. The next one on my list, I think, would be Captain America, the First Avenger. I'm curious with that one, what expectations did that movie set in terms of what it would be like to work on a major Hollywood blockbuster? And then how did the ones you made after compare to those expectations?
Yeah, I suppose I got a glimpse of that briefly. Captain America was one day. I think it's when I was on the Hunger Games and they were creating Pan Am, and, and Francis Lawrence, again, such another wonderfully inclusive, informative director, and would be like, Nat, and the other members of cast, it's like, do you want to see the mock-up of this? Do you want to see that? And seeing pyrotechnics of bombings and aircraft, that, because like the CGI is still a little early. So, we really were in the main body of a hovercraft that got lowered and the CGI got filled out around, but like a lot of things were practical still on that shoot, like big budget practical. And that's just playtime for an actor, because you're transformed, you're transferred into that magical world where the stimulus is all around you. So you barely need to act, because you're just reacting to being shot at, being thrown in water, being chased by a monster. It's like big budget affords that utter utter transformation. But then obviously there's really beautiful things about a small independent like the Wasp as well. The intimacy of the process is equally rewarding in a beautiful way.
Oh, without a doubt. I love the balance you've had in your filmography too. It's exciting and there's so much variety there. So if I went from Captain America, next would probably be Game of Thrones. And this is a question that I really love asking. It's about breaking out in this industry, because from our limited perspective, it can look one way and it could be entirely different compared to what the person going through the breakout is actually experiencing. So, surprise, surprise, big two-part question about that. What is a misconception about what it means to have a breakout project in film and television? But then also, what is something about the success of Game of Thrones that really did influence you in your career for the better?
I mean, obviously, the wealth of opportunity it grants you to be on one of the most popular shows at the time is just huge. But the misconception is that you have time to do other things because you're contracted. So I'm sure actors have said this to you time and time again. If you are contracted to a show for 6 or 8 months of the year, it is hard to fit in and find those other opportunities that you gain from being a part of that phenomenon. I mean, so I think most of us just decided to just enjoy the ride, and just it was so zeitgeist. It was so of the moment. It was a wild ride, truly it was. But it's so amazing now to talk about it in past tense, because obviously this too shall pass. Everything does. So, and I've said it before. I had the sweet gig. I saw the first season. I watched it as a fan, and I got to watch the last handful of seasons as a fan. I was like right in the sandwich, which was it was a real gift.
I have two follow-up questions on Thrones based on something I've heard you say in other interviews. The first is a really unique creation challenge on a show like this. I heard you mention that, because Margaery wasn't super fleshed out in the source material, that it gave you the opportunity to create a little. And when the role was given to you, you were flat out told that they didn't really know what to do with her. So I am curious, did you have a moment either in prep or on set when you thought about something or did something in a scene that made you think, like, I get her now and I know where she needs to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's invariably with a show that size, there are quite a few scenes that get shot that don't make it to the cut, and there are a few Margaery Tyrell scenes that didn't make it in the main show, and I think they're on the internet now. There's one in the first season that I did, so I think it must be second season, or it might be third season, where I'm talking to Loris, I'm talking to Finn, my brother, and because you see so much of the facade with Margaery, the performance, and I include like whether she's most often you see her, there's the performance. So obviously there was scenes later with Diana Rigg where you saw it fall more, but early on, pre-Diana, when I was trying to find her, there are a few choice scenes where she's just talking openly, mainly with Loris, and that really helped me. And even though they didn't make it in, shooting them, rehearsing them, breathing them helped.
Oh, that's a great answer, and that kind of paves the way to my last Game of Thrones question for you, because I I love this particular scene. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. I've heard you talk about like your eagerness to, I guess, close the book on Thrones so that you could have the time to do other things, and you kind of just brought it up there. But I am curious, what was your reaction to like the actual content of her death scene? Did it feel like a satisfying end where, like, yes, she is killed, but it's a moment that well reflects everything you had built with the character throughout the series?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, I was, I was frustrated that that she went that way, but then she was frustrated in the scene. And I was once told by an older actor, I'm trying to rack my brains for who it is now, but I was once told by a much older actor, don't get confused. If you're feeling something, always check yourself that it's not just that your character is feeling it, and via osmosis it's seeping into you. Because if you play something muscle, like, your body doesn't know any different, and if you're playing something repetitively, as you obviously have to do on a shoot, sometimes that emotion can seep into you. So of course, like, she deserved better. I wanted more for her, but she's so frustrated in that moment with the sparrow, with Jonathan. And, so that's part of it. That's how you're doing it right. Cause you're like, I just need someone to listen to me a little bit more. Yeah. She was vindicated in the end. It's just like a couple of sentences, but it's all that needed to be said. She was vindicated. And I felt like I could let her go in that moment, because I was like, she said it, man,
She was right. I also just particularly love the beautiful beat between her and her brother, because that feels like another moment where like the facade is just completely stripped away, and that is like pure family love, and that's what's powering that moment. I love it.
I mean, it's one of the most powerful and unique experiences about being an actor, is when you get those moments of a character recognizing their mortality. It's that's a very specific thing, when a character that is suddenly facing death. And of course, you can't, that is something that only your imagination can do. Well, and I don't know, we've all been in cars or planes in turbulence, and like, so that thing of, oh my God, is this it? It's a very, that's like the far profound end of the spectrum of what we do that comes up now and then.
For what it's worth, I think you eat that scene up and you made it incredibly memorable.
Thank
I
you,
got
Karen.
two broader questions before I lean into the Wasp full force. One comes to mind. It's a question I like to ask all the time, but again, going back to your school experience and being open to all techniques, I'm curious to hear your answer to this. Of all of the co-stars you've ever worked with, whose process is most similar to yours, where the second you met, you were immediately in sync? But then I also want the opposite, someone who challenged you to adapt and maybe try something new and for the better.
Oh, that happens all the time. that's like constant.
I like that.
That's constant. But the same, because the same isn't always good. Sometimes a bit of friction of like, oh, this is your process. Sometimes that little bit of friction is really the sweet spot. But simpatico. I mean, I have to say, to bring it back to the Wasp, cheeky me.
Yeah, please do.
But to bring it back to the Wasp, a two-hander is a very specific thing. And the last time I did a two-hander, I civil partnered the person. It's like last time I did a two-hander was on stage with Venus in Fur, when I met David. And so I wasn't about to leave David for Naomie, but it is an intense process, and you only have you have your director, and Guillaume was incredible on the Wasp, but you only have each other. And so there is that push pull of the script and the power play, and then obviously when you arrive on set, sometimes someone's had a good day, someone's had a bad day, someone's had some bad news, someone's got some family problems, or someone's having an amazing day and they just had an amazing date night, or, you know, it's like, so it's like these two, it's so interesting. It's such a unique experience doing a two-hander, because it's this chess game which can be adversarial, but then also you are also equally incredibly supportive of each other, because if you're not, it doesn't work. Like, it literally it falls down. So it's finding that balance and doing that with the doing that on the soundboard.
Oh, it very much makes sense. I'm going to come back to your work with Naomie in a minute, but one other broader question I wanted to ask, and it's funny because the first half of your answer to that question actually was said to me by the star of this other movie. I was talking to Mia Goth for Ladies' Night, and one of the things she emphasized is the benefit of having friction. And, you know, friction sometimes comes with a negative connotation, but sometimes it could spark creativity that you wouldn't have access to otherwise.
Yeah, and I think, and you know, some directors and casting directors do it, you know, a little bit on purpose. You know, it's like, that's what chemistry reads are often about. It's like, because it's not, there is something esoteric about two people's energies, that you don't, until two people are in a room together, especially when we read for stuff so much on camera now, like this. But to get two actors in a room to work out how something is going to feel and translate on a screen, I mean, that's just so old fashioned, but it's just so like baseline.
So the way I'm going to connect the dots now from Mia Goth to this last broader question I want to ask, I started asking it. I don't know if you saw the movie Maxine, did you?
Oh no, not yet. I really want to.
It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. Just to explain why I asked this question. So in this movie, Elizabeth Debicki plays a director, and she says at one point that if the movie she's making does well, it's going to allow her to have a more meaningful voice in Hollywood. So I started asking this because it feels important. When you first started out in film and television, what did having a meaningful voice in Hollywood mean to you, and how did the definition of that change since?
I think my career, I'm sorry if this sounds like, you know, now like a stereotypical answer. If it does so, it's because the conversation is so much more prevalent about it. It's about three-dimensional, fleshed out female protagonists. There was just such a dearth. There was just such a lack of them when I started out, truly. And you would be sent the script for the girlfriend, or, you know, the wife or the antagonist. And it's like, it was, the majority was so two-dimensional. And to, over the course of my career, to watch that conversation grow, completely shift. Now when you're like scrolling on, you know, whatever platform you're watching, and seeing the amount of fleshed out, three-dimensional, anti-heroic female protagonists, but also supporting roles, I mean, it's just night and day. That's happened in my career time.
Ooh, I love that answer. And that perfectly paves the way to the Wasp, because my God, do you get a complex role here to sink your teeth into? First, in terms of signing on for that movie, was there anything about it when that script came your way that made you stop and go, I have something to gain from this as an actor evolving my craft?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was terrified of it because I'd read it a few years before, because I know Morgan Lloyd Malcolm, the playwright, and she and I were developing something else, or we were trying to find something to work on with each other, and she had sent me the Wasp. So I didn't unfortunately see it on stage when it was on stage, and then it transferred, and I didn't see it because I was out of the country shooting. But so I read it, and I had a visceral reaction to it, without giving stuff away, for a number of reasons on a number of pages. And I think I dismissed it a little bit, because I was a bit, probably, if I'm honest, subconsciously, I was a bit scared of it. And I always assumed, when she used to mention it, that they would make a film of it one day, I always assumed that I would play the other role.
Oh,
I
wow.
always, because I always assumed, casting wise, when people watch it, they'll see, I always assumed that Morgan would turn around to me and say, will you play Heather? And I was just like, And then when Morgan was like, you know, we are going to make this, and I really want it to be you. and Guillaume is such an incredible director that I've always admired from afar. So when my ears really pricked up when I knew it was him, and then Naomie, obviously, but the conversation was no for Carla, and I was like, "What? Sorry, excuse me." And they were, and my agent was like, "No, for Carla," and I was like, "Holy, sorry, I'm allowed to swear." I'm like, "Holy fuck, yes, absolutely." Because this will really flex me. This will really flex my muscles. So that's the waffly answer. Thank you.
Was there a specific moment on set or in prep where you could feel to yourself like Carla was the right route? Like we click in a way that is extra special?
Yeah, I mean, she's so angry. and to play and I think in modern 21st society, us professional women that are trying to juggle, family life with career demands, like we all do so much work at containing our frustration, and Carla is just like, you are allowed to release the rage. But she's very vulnerable too. I mean, the thing Morgan said to me and had always said, and this is the call out for the movie, is no goodies, no baddies. Two fully real, non-binary, multiple layered women who are both capable of profound darkness and profound vulnerability. They're both traumatized and they're both trying to find a way through. And, that's just, I mean, what an opportunity as an actor, it's just, of course.
When you're doing something like that, what is the key to ensuring that the audience can feel for her when the time is right, but never at the expense of holding her accountable for what she did?
Yeah, the text, and trusting Guillaume, just trusting Guillaume. I was, it's such a dance, it's such a balance. And when we were shooting it, we knew that if you do it correctly, the audience's allegiance will shift. It's like a really good Pinter play, it's like in one line, you completely volte face where your sympathy or your empathy is for a particular character. And it's just it's that dance between the two, and when it's the end and the audience walk away, people are going to be on different sides, and also this one haunts you, this one comes back a bit, so yeah, and that's just the sign of a good text. And innately it's a play, and there's a lot of, like, Morgan's tried to ram quite a few ideas in there, so you can watch it as a pure entertainment movie and it works that way. But the play, the fact that it is originally been workshopped twice to get on stage, you can feel that in the movement. And Morgan did add to she did add to the script for the film as well. I don't know what Naomie did, but I had a few please can you adds, and she was responsive to that. So
can I ask you for an example of an ad that people can look out for when they watch the film?
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to. I'm. The Wasp was the second film that I did in quick succession after becoming a mother for the first time. And it completely changed my landscape. I mean, of course it changes everyone's landscape to become a parent. It's not a gender thing. But, it's a bottle of wine and another hour-long interview to analyze what happened to me. But on a molecular level, the way I did, theme changed for me in becoming a mother. And there were a couple of extra lines that I asked Morgan for with Carla regarding the innocence of her children. Because when Heather, without giving stuff away, when Heather and Carla, when Naomie and my characters have something, both of them have unfairness done to them, injustice done to them as children, as innocent kids, and it changes them. And then Carla has an argument to, like, whatever human being I am, don't hurt my kids. I asked Morgan to push it and add a few more lines because I really felt like it could do with an extra punctuation. And she responded. She talks about how she wrote the play, the original play, The Wasp. Morgan wrote in the sleep deprivation, anxiety of being a new mother. It was when her first child was born, and she was having this whole identity crisis and this sense of violence and visceral relationship with the world that you get from pure sleep deprivation. And I think when you know that, you could kind of see it. It's about women on the edge.
A little bit.
So the maternity theme, which is obviously a theme in the movie, that kind of it all kind of adds up. So I didn't think it would hurt for her to push it more.
Oh, that's so effective there. All right. I am supposed to wrap with you about now. We always wrap with the same question on Ladies' Night. I will warn you, nobody likes this question, but I think it's important to get answered. So in this industry, people give each other awards. That is super cool. We should keep doing that. I find that nobody says good job to themselves nearly enough. I want to know something you did in The Wasp that you know you'll be able to look back on and say, I am so proud of what I did there.
Yeah, I think it's in line with what we just spoke about. I have played characters going through profound darkness before. I've been lucky enough to play that many times. To then have to go home and leave that at the door and not indulge in it and not transfer it to your family and understand your role as a parent and to be responsible professionally and give all your soul and all your heart, but then not to carry darkness home with you if that's what you've been playing, and to leave it at the door. That is something I'm proud of myself for, because I was so aware of not when people watch the film, they'll understand. I was so aware of not transferring that energy to my little girl. So so that probably.
An actor's ability to jump into dark material and to be able to get out is one of the things about the craft that wows me to no end. I have so many more questions I wanted to ask you, but that's
when you're a young actor, that's part of it. You know, you feel it, man. You walk around with it. You're reading the depressive novels. You're listening to Nick Cave. It's like you're really, really indulging it. but you can't when you get that bit older.
Oh God, lessons learned over time. I get it. You're going to have to come back to Ladies' Night so I can ask you the 500 other questions that I wanted to ask today. In the meantime, I will say huge congratulations on The Wasp and remind everybody that it is in theaters on August 30th. Do not miss it. Congratulations. The Ladies' Night door is open anytime you want.
Thank you, Perry. Thank you very much.